Some people pass through our lives without leaving any trace. Others, in silence, touch us so deeply that it is impossible to forget. It's as if the soul reacts even before we understand what is happening. Have you ever met someone like that? Who arrived without warning but brought peace? Who didn't need to explain themselves but was understood? Who appeared at a delicate moment and somehow strengthened you? It may have been a brief encounter, a quick conversation, or even a constant presence that grew gradually. But one thing is certain. When a chosen one enters your life, you feel it. It's not noise, it's not turmoil. It's presence, truth, purpose. These people carry something different. They do not live for appearances, do not speak to impress, and are not there by chance. The chosen ones are not common, they are sent. And when they appear, it is because something greater is happening. Perhaps you have experienced this kind of encounter and did not understand it at the time. Maybe you are still trying to decipher why that person marked you so much. Or perhaps you are still waiting for that recognition, that sign from God, that connection that only the soul understands. In this video, you will discover 5 clear ways to recognize a chosen one. They are not formulas or fixed rules. They are spiritual signs, experiences that repeat with those who have an open heart to perceive. And if this message is already touching you, take the opportunity to follow this channel now. Not just to listen to more content, but to walk alongside those who also feel that they are not here by chance. Here is a space for reconnection among the chosen ones, and your presence makes sense. There are people we meet and take time to trust. The conversation starts shyly, the bond is built gradually, and everything forms slowly. But there are encounters that are different. The connection happens effortlessly. Understanding arises without many words. It is in this type of encounter that many times a chosen one reveals themselves. When a chosen one enters your life, something inside you recognizes. Even if you have never seen each other before, there is a feeling of closeness, of peace, of remembrance, as if that person had been awaited, even without you knowing it. You don't need explanations. You don't need to force conversation. The silence between you is light. The presence of the other does not weigh. On the contrary, it alleviates. It brings security. It makes you want to be close, even without understanding why. This type of connection is rare. It isn't created. It isn't manufactured. It is spiritual. It goes beyond logic. And that's why so many people try to deny what they feel when they experience something like this. Because it can't be proven. It can only be felt. It is as if the souls had already met at another time. As if there were a common mission, an agreement made in the invisible, and when paths cross, everything aligns in an unexpected way. You realize that you can trust, and this trust comes effortlessly. It comes from the gaze, from the tone of voice, from the presence. There is no fuss, there is no confusion, just a feeling that you are safe, that you have found someone who speaks to your soul. The chosen ones carry an energy that welcomes. They do not impose themselves. They do not try to conquer. They simply arrive. And by being who they are, they touch. They touch deeply. Sometimes in places that no one has ever reached. And they do this without intention, without strategy, without wanting to attract attention. This connection can arise in a brief encounter. It can emerge with a word said at the right moment. It can even arise in silence. But when it happens, you know, you don't need anyone to confirm it. Your spirit has already understood. It is important to recognize this type of connection, because it doesn't come all the time. It doesn't happen with just anyone. It carries a purpose, something that goes beyond friendship, beyond affinity, beyond appearance. It is God uniting stories. You won't always understand right away why this person arrived, But what you feel is already a sign that there is something to be lived, something to be awakened, something to be fulfilled together. Do not run away from this type of encounter, and do not try to label it. Let the soul speak, let time reveal. Because when a chosen one enters your life, nothing remains the same. This connection is not about emotional intensity. It is about spiritual truth. It is about recognizing that amidst so many people, someone who speaks to your interior has appeared. And this is precious. Not every conversation changes us. Many are fleeting, shallow, almost automatic. But when a chosen one begins to speak with you, something inside shifts. It's not the tone of voice, nor the appearance. It's what lies behind the words that touches deeply. The chosen ones don't like to waste time with empty talk. They get straight to the point that matters. Even if the subject starts light, at some point, their speech transcends the surface. Without forcing, without invading, but with a precision that surprises, you realize you are in front of someone who isn't there just to be. There is intention. There is truth. There is presence. They have the gift of asking questions that no one has asked, of bringing to light things you have kept hidden for a long time. And more than that, they listen in a rare way. They listen with their hearts, without hurry, without judgment, without distraction. Some conversations with a chosen one are short, but they linger with you for days. Not because they were grand, but because they were real. Because they touched something dormant. Because they opened up a space you didn't even know existed. Sometimes they don't even say much, but the little they do say carries weight. It has truth, it has soul, and that transforms. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. What's most impressive is that they don't always realize the impact they have. They speak naturally, not knowing they have just illuminated a blind spot of yours. Not knowing they have changed the way you see something. But you feel it, and you feel it deeply. Being in front of a chosen one is being in front of someone who accesses the invisible parts of your story, who looks at you and sees beyond your image, who speaks to you but seems to be speaking to your essence. This type of verbal connection is rare, and when it happens, you know. Because after the conversation, something is no longer the same. If you have ever felt this way in front of someone, don't ignore it. You may have just had a conversation with someone sent by God to awaken something in you. Someone who came not just to listen, but to remind you of what you need to remember. There are moments when everything seems out of place. The mind is full, the heart weary, and the faith that was once firm begins to waver. The feeling is of being surrounded by people, yet still feeling alone. And it is precisely in these scenarios that many times a chosen one quietly enters the scene. And it is not by chance. The chosen ones do not appear on ordinary days. They come when there is something inside you screaming for help. Even if you don't speak, they perceive it. Even if you hide it well, they feel it. They are guided to you as if they know without knowing that your heart was asking for help. They obey a call that comes from above. You may be in the midst of a silent crisis, living pains that you haven't told anyone, carrying difficult decisions, old guilt, swallowed feelings. And without warning, someone different appears. Someone who doesn't rush, who doesn't try to fix you, but who sees you, truly, without filters, without haste, without judgment. This someone doesn't come with ready-made solutions. They come with presence. A presence that changes everything without needing to do much. They don't force, they don't invade, they don't try to take up space. But their presence fills what was empty. It calms what was restless. It illuminates what once seemed lost. And you feel this in your soul. The chosen one doesn't bring you answers as if they have everything figured out. They awaken something in you that was dormant. They help you listen better to what your own soul is saying. And slowly, what was once confusion begins to organize itself. The path doesn't change from the outside in. It changes from the inside out. It's almost frightening to realize how someone who has just arrived seems to understand you so well. How a simple speech can break down walls. How true listening can heal years of silence. The impact is so great because it doesn't come solely from the person. It comes from who sent them. Because the chosen one doesn't speak for themselves. They are used. When a chosen one arrives, they do not come merely as company. They come as an answer to prayers you may have never spoken aloud, to supplications made in silence, to a cry disguised as routine. They come because God heard, God saw, and decided to act through someone. The answer has a face, a voice, and a presence. Sometimes the chosen one does not stay. They pass through. They say something. They offer support. And they move on. But they leave something profound. A seed, a memory, a new angle on pain. Other times they stay. They walk with you. They closely accompany you. They help in the process. They heal together. Whether brief or long, the mark is the same, real. You realize with time that they appeared at the exact moment when you no longer knew how to move forward. Not before, not after. They arrived at the turning point, at the point where your strength was fading, at the point where everything seemed colorless. And with a simple presence, they brought light. These encounters are greater than they seem. They are signs. They are touches of God in history. They are proof that heaven is still attentive, even when everything seems silent. And once you recognize this type of encounter, you never look at people the same way again. You begin to see with the Spirit. If you look calmly at your story, you may realize that in the darkest moments, someone appeared. Someone who listened to you when no one else did. Who believed in you when you didn't even believe in yourself. Who looked at you with mercy, not pity. Who lifted you without even touching you. This person may have been a chosen one. And if this someone has not yet arrived, do not despair. Because God always sends His at the right time. Not when you want, but when your heart is ready to receive. When pain becomes prayer. When silence turns into a cry. And then without warning, the answer arrives as someone. Not every chosen one arrives bringing comfort. Some come with the most challenging role of all, to wake you up. They do not appear just to welcome you. Sometimes they come to shake you, to strip away the layers that time and pain have created in you. They are not harsh. They are true. And truth, many times, scares. They do not ask permission to touch what is hidden. They feel where the blockage is. They feel what you have been ignoring. And with few words, they place you before yourself, not pointing out flaws, but revealing points that you have tried to put off. With them, you cannot escape yourself, and that transforms. Their presence disrupts your interior. Your mood changes, your thoughts move. Old emotions resurface. You don't understand why everything became so intense after being with this person. But it's simple. They carry light. And where there is light, shadows appear. And where there are shadows, there is space for healing. The chosen one who comes with this mission will not leave you in the same place. They will provoke movement. They will bring clarity. They will make you look honestly at what needs to be revisited. And they will not do this with arrogance, but with courage. Because it takes courage to tell the truth to someone who is not yet ready to hear it. This is not about judging you. It is about freeing you. Many times what hurts is not the words of the chosen one. It is what they awaken inside you. It is realizing that you have settled, that you have ignored warnings, that you have distanced yourself from who you truly are. The shock comes not out of malice, but because the truth, when it arrives, breaks through layers that were already weakened. These encounters are strong, not because they hurt, but because they stir up old structures, patterns of thought, beliefs about yourself, fears that you accepted as part of your identity. And when someone is able to touch on these points without hurting you but moving you, that is spiritual. That is mission. The chosen one does not force changes. They inspire. They speak and then fall silent. They let you digest. They do not pressure you with expectations. But they also do not make it easier for your illusions. They want your most authentic version. Not the one that pleases others, but the one that honors your inner calling. Sometimes, the discomfort they generate is the first sign of healing. You may even want to distance yourself. You may feel anger. You may think it was too much. But something in you knows you needed that. And even if you try to forget, the words remain. Their presence continues to echo. Because it was not just a conversation, it was a mirror. And mirrors do not lie. After some time with someone like that, you do not return to who you were. There is a change, even if slow. You begin to observe more, reflect more, question more. And little by little, you start to align yourself. You begin to perceive what needs to be let go, healed, adjusted. And you start to do this with more awareness. Most of the growth happens in the silence after the encounter. These chosen ones have the gift of discomforting with love. They do not want to please you. They want to free you. And sometimes, this requires deconstruction. You might think they are just another ordinary person, but when you realize that something inside you has been activated, understand, this is not ordinary. This is spiritual. Do not ignore these people. They come as mirrors. They come as keys. They come as instruments. Not to point out your flaws, but to show you who you can still become. Not to diminish you, but to remind you of your ability to transform. Because there is something in you waiting to awaken. And God uses people to make that happen. If someone has ever touched you this way, stop and reflect. It may have been more than a random encounter. It may have been a call disguised as conversation. It may have been God delivering in silence a new direction through the presence of a chosen one. Life has a subtle way of erasing pieces of us, not all at once, but little by little. The pressures, the pains, the judgments, and the fears begin to take up space. And, without realizing it, you start to forget who you really are. You forget your worth. You forget the brightness you carry. You forget the silent strength that still exists deep within you. You learn to function on autopilot, to play roles, to maintain appearances. You learn to carry on even when tired, to smile even when hurt. And over time you adapt to the idea that perhaps this is all there is. But deep down, something within you is still calling. It still pulses. It still waits for someone to remind you of who you are. God, in His wisdom, answers this call through encounters. He sends people who do not come to fill space, but to activate memories. People who look beyond what you show, who feel what you do not say, who touch wounds without hurting. They do not try to fix you. They remind you. A chosen one carries this mission. They appear without warning, but at the exact right time. And when they arrive, you feel it. Something changes. You cannot explain it, but you know how to recognize it. It is as if that person awakens parts of you that were forgotten, as if their presence activated something deep, something that still lives inside you. They do not transform you into someone new. They reconnect you with who you have always been, with your courage, with your sensitivity, with your vision, with your faith. with everything the world tried to silence. And they do this with truth, without effort, without needing to say much. Sometimes, just their gaze is already an answer. The impact of a chosen one is not in grand gestures. It is in the way they see you, how they listen to you, how they treat you, even when you are in pieces. They do not look at your pain as a burden. They look as someone who has been through it, as someone who knows what is being restored there. They do not push you. They invite you. They invite you to return, to remember, to see yourself with new eyes, not with the eyes of the world, but with the eyes of God. And this remembrance, even subtle, has the power to lift you up, to realign you, to put you back on the path of purpose. Over time, you begin to notice changes. You begin to make decisions with more awareness. You start to respect yourself. You begin to stop hiding. And slowly, you start walking again as someone who knows where they came from, and most importantly, where they are going. The chosen one reminds you of your spiritual origin. They do not say, "Be strong." They simply strengthen you, with presence, with truth, with firmness. They are the kind of person who, even in silence, shouts the worth you have. Because the way they see you breaks the lies the world told you. And that heals, that frees, that reignites. Perhaps you have never said this out loud, but if someone has ever made you remember your essence, if someone has ever made you feel like your soul was returning home, this person was an instrument of God. They were an answer. They were a reminder that you are still necessary, even on your darkest days. And if you have not yet experienced this kind of encounter, take comfort. They happen when we are ready to remember, when we are mature enough to receive. God knows the right moment, and when it arrives, you feel it, not in the body, but in the spirit. Because when a chosen one appears, the soul recognizes. In the end, perhaps the greatest miracle is not changing your life, but remembering who you are, being reborn inside, starting to feel again, starting to believe again, becoming whole once more, because no one loses what they are. They just forget for a time. And when God wants to remind you, He sends someone with enough light to reignite your own. Maybe you have walked for a long time thinking that no one really understood you. Maybe you learned to hide your pain so as not to seem weak, or to smile on the outside while something inside was collapsing. And amid all of this, you may have felt that you were alone. But the truth is that you were never alone, even on the days when no one hugged you, even on the nights when no one noticed your tears, even when everything seemed silent. God was acting. And one of the most subtle and powerful ways He takes care of you is through people. People who appear without explanation, who do not make a fuss, who do not promise you anything but offer you everything. They arrive and, without realizing it, bring relief. Sometimes with words, other times just with their presence. These are the chosen ones. They do not have labels. They do not wear badges on their chests. They do not speak loudly. But you recognize them. Because when they cross your path, something inside you awakens. A different peace, a deep understanding, a silent new beginning. These encounters are answers to the prayers you made in silence, to the cries of the soul that no one heard, to the moments when you thought there was no more direction. God heard, and He answered you with an encounter. Not every chosen one will stay. Some just pass by. They leave a mark and move on. But the impact remains. What was awakened inside you continues to grow, because their mission was exactly that, to remind you that you still can, that you still are, that there is still purpose. Others will stay. They will be part of your journey. They will accompany you through processes. They will hold you up when you forget your own strength, and you will know that they are different, because they do not demand from you, they do not charge you, they do not suffocate you. They lift you up. Recognizing these encounters is an exercise in sensitivity. Your story may be exactly what someone needs to read today, to understand what they are also going through. The second is that you follow this channel, not as just another number, but as part of something bigger. Here, we do not form an audience, we form purpose. This space is made for those who feel, for those who believe, for those who recognize that there is something divine in the details of life. Here, you will always find words that remind you, content that uplifts you, and truths that bring you back to yourself. Because you are not alone, and you never were. The voice that called you here is the same one that continues to guide you. Welcome.